how to learn in a better way. Many of you have asked me this question. Now, I think the most important thing to increase our learning capacity is that to develop that intrinsic motivation. I think you are aware that there are three kinds of motivation. This suggests that one is basic motivation. That means motivation to have food, to have shelter, to pass our genes through reproduction. That is the basic motivation. Then there is extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is simple, like working for some external benefits, like working for some money or for promotion or for some bonus. So it's something they say carrot and stick concept. That means it would be some carrots would be dangled in front of you like you were a donkey, and you would be expected that you run faster in hope of getting that carrot. And then comes another kind of motivation that is called intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is something related with the passion. That means you are doing something out of genuine interest, out of mental pleasure, and you can do it almost it for free actually, because when you are doing this you are getting a lot of amount of pleasure. And usually they have seen that those who attain a higher level in their craft, they usually have that intrinsic motivation. So that is, I think, definitely one key element which is necessary. That means you need to get pleasure, you need to get fun, you need to get entertainment while learning about new things. It should release a lot of neurotransmitter in your brain when you learn something new. If you have that, then obviously you are not doing it for some marks or some other purpose. You are basically doing it to learn it properly. That is one thing is there. Second thing, I feel that to learn better, you need the capacity, particularly in this 21st century, you need the capacity to process information. What do you understand by processing information? That means that you are not only receiving or the information, but you are also able to analyze that information and also to connect the information with another information which you have learned earlier. That capacity should be there. Because I think in 2020, currently, everybody has access to the information. It doesn't hardly matters. But what matters is that how you are dealing with that data, how you are dealing with that information. That is the most important aspect overall. For this, I usually feel in this way. Take example of the Titanic movie, which was released in 1999 directed by James Cameron. And Titanic sank in 1912. So there were a lot of movies made between this 87 years period, 1912 and 1999. But no movie was as blockbuster hit as James Cameron's Titanic. So what is the reason behind that? Because everybody is making a movie on the story of a sinking ship, but only that movie became one of the top all-time great blockbuster hits. The reason for that when James Cameron made that movie, he not only took that story, but he also introduced a lot of other aspects, a lot of human touch, human emotions, and other things into that movie. So he processed that information and then made it in his own way. He didn't copy it from the idea that the ship is sinking. So that's made that movie to a completely at higher level. So that's why I'm talking about the idea about processing information, which is very, very important, particularly in this current era. Third thing I feel which is very important for learning is curiosity. That means you need to be curious. That means that you need to be, and it's also somehow related with the intrinsic motivation, which I'm telling you later. That means you are learning on your own, that capacity, that interest that is within you there. Fourth thing I feel is humility. Humility is often an ignored concept, but this is very, very important for learning. If you are not humble, then I think you cannot reach at a higher level. Somewhere I read a poem of Rumi, which is one of the greatest poet of all time. I think 13th or 14th century, a Persian poet, considered one of the greatest of all time. And whenever I read him, it touches me deeply, his quotes, his poems. So I think there was a quote from Rumi, which I read earlier. The quote was something like that if you are thinking yourself as full, you cannot receive from the external source. So you need to know that there are a lot of faults within you. There are a lot of space within you where you can still learn. It's something like that if a glass itself feels that it's full, you cannot put anything inside that. Similarly, if you are always feeling that I know everything, then it's very difficult for others or for yourself also to learn something new. And everybody is learning something each day. You cannot learn everything or everything. It's not possible, actually, virtually impossible. So that humility should be there. And in case you are feeling that you know everything, just I would suggest visit a library, big library. You see all those books, or visit a Kindle book, ebook library. If you see all those books, you understand that still many things are left, actually, that you still need to learn. So this is another vital thing which I feel is very much important to develop your learning capacity, that humility, that humbleness should be there within you, that I need to learn. I have so many things to learn and I still don't know anything. If it is there within you, it would definitely take you to a higher level. So I mentioned about intrinsic motivation. I mentioned about the processing of information. I mentioned about curiosity. I mentioned about humility. Another thing is definitely that I feel is important is hard work, because there's no magic, there's no abracadabra in it. The ideas would not come automatically in your mind. You need to initiate the efforts. You need to put the efforts there. So obviously, if you work really hard, that means you are, and when you are actually really passionate about it, intrinsic motivation is there. This working hard concept does not work. Actually, you do it on your own. You not look at the time, that how many hours you are working. You are doing to, because you are getting a pleasure out of this. A lot of neurotransmitters are getting released at that time in your brains, and you are feeling very much fulfilled, gratified. So that would all. So you'd come to in a flow, actually, that when you immerse into a full concentration and you work on that. And along with that, I think this is very much important, which is required, I feel, is focus, because your capacity to focus on something would also determine your learning capacity on that. You need to really focus on that. So I think these are the all ingredients for learning better. That means I mentioned our focus, the capacity to work intensely on that. Obviously, the processing of the information, intrinsic motivation, and the humility and curiosity. If all these things they're there, I think you can reach to a higher level. And those persons who have read, I have seen, they really have taken the learning to a new level. They're erudite person. There are two things, actually: education and certification. I'm not talking about the certification, but I'm talking about education. Certification means, that means 1st June 2010 to 30th May of 2014, you finished a degree and you get a certificate. That is certification. And another thing is education. Education is lifelong process. It's not ending or beginning or ending, and at some point, actually, you cannot measure it from A to Z. So those who have people which I've seen really learned, actually, they have all these qualities within them, and that's take them to a higher level. So that's all. This was the 100th InstaLecture session, and I thought to discuss on other things rather than discussing about the disease, and continue the InstaLecture session on the coming days. Thank you very much for listening.